record it here. Recording in progress. Here we go. Okay, so Beachy Head. Let me bring up. I've read a couple of very basic slides. Oops, but you won't see anything because I haven't shared my screen yet. Give me a second. Share screen. I'm going to share the PowerPoint. All right, cool. Hopefully, right, I'll leave that there for a second. Right, so when you open the site guide, you'll see the little windrows we've got. Hopefully you can all see that. And the bit we're looking at is here down on the sort of, what was it?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock mark, Beachy Head. And as you can see, the wind direction it takes on here is from east-southeast through to sort of south-southeast. So that's just the first basic thing. So Beachy Head itself, what I've done, I've basically nicked some things off of, this is actually off Google Earth, amazingly good imagery they've got on there. So this kind of gives you a nice overview of the site. And what you'll see here is, this is the southeast side of it is the bowl. I don't know if you can see in the middle here, we've got, the middle is the pub. There's a little black arrow coming down from it. The arrow is pointing to the main sort of takeoff landing area, which I'll just show you more detail. But the main point of this is to show you how Beachy Head is two sides. To this sort of southeastern side is the bowl. And this I'll probably talk about most because that's mainly what you're going to be flying in tomorrow. There's a very, if you sort of take, admit Neil's iPhone. Yeah, okay, Neil, I'll let you in. If you take the pub and just about see that black area, if you from the pub, draw a line down, straight down to the top of that cliffs, that's your dividing line. Once you go kind of to the westerly side of that, you're over the cliffs proper, and this then takes you down over the lighthouse and down towards Seven Sisters. So this is the section that you are not going to be flying tomorrow. But the main thing I would say about the bowl side is it's very much not cliff flying. It is a bowl. It's got if you at the bottom of it, it's got a large bottom landing area. My experience of it, the grass tends to be, I don't know if you've been there recently, but the grass is usually quite long at the bottom. So if you do bottom land, be prepared for the fact it will be long grass, but it's fairly safe to land down there. And realistically, it's a 10, 15-minute max sort of walk back up again. So don't be concerned about if you can't top land or there's problems with it, just go to the bottom, pack up, walk back up again, or you can just mushroom and walk back up. Yeah, you know, it's fairly easy to do. So Beachy Head itself, I'm just going to zoom in a bit more on the actual site, which is this one. So the green kind of elongated circle, that's pretty much the landing area that you're going to be landing in. From the pub across the road, it's a little bit of an incline there. And this is the top section where people land. So it's fairly important when you're setting up and stuff, not to block that area. The blue line kind of designates majorly where you're going to be launching from. So it's not a huge, you know, you've got landing area and sort of just in front, you've got the launch area. And let's move that around a little bit. So from this blue line, the general takeoff is actually just sort of straight down towards this path, and then you bear off to the left or to the east, and you're then basically running along this white line that you see, which is a footpath that runs at the base of a load of trees and bushes. Now, what this slide doesn't quite show you in detail, as you'll see when you get there, is what surrounds this is a lot of tree and bush growth. There's very, very few places along here. In fact, once you get, in fact, it's almost nowhere along here, you can't slope land this section. It's covered in trees, it's covered in bushes. You're basically committed to either coming back and landing where this green circle is, or you see it better here. You see this, hopefully you can see, we've got the black arrow, there's the main road, there's a footpath that comes down, and then the same white path runs parallel with the road all the way along. And the main flight path out is above that footpath. And realistically, if you don't land back on top, you're landing at the bottom. That's your best option, really. The slopes aren't that great for landing on. There's lots of trees. I would say we probably get more people in bushes and trees at Beachy Head than we do anywhere else, because people don't want to go to the bottom. They try and slope land where it's not really that designed for slope landing. So don't be afraid to, when you're flying here, if it gets too busy or you're getting low, just come down at the bottom, land, pack up, walk back up again. So the basic, I'm just going to show you one more overhead one. This is just like an overhead of the whole thing. Again, in the middle, you've got the pub. And from sort of bottom to top is, that's south of the bottom, north of the top. So the reason it takes a nice southeasterly is the southeasterly comes straight in. The bulb pretty much faces directly southeast. So a southeasterly wind works really, really well on it. So, okay, that's just the basic structure. So I'm going to take a look at, what I'm going to do is just bring up the site guide, and I'm going to stop sharing that for a second. Otherwise you won't see what I'm about to do next. And that's going to go through various points in the site guide, explain them, and really, I guess, just make sure you really got those details and start to take a few questions from you. And cover, there's a few bits on rotor and there that are quite key, turbulence and things like that. So let me just pop this up, which I had very neatly saved down here. Sorry, give me a second. Apologies for this, I had it all nicely open. Again, there it is. And I will then share it. Where's my screen share? Here we go. Cool. All right. So this is the actual site guide. I want to go through a few things on it that we do. Some don't always happen. So one of the things that should happen tomorrow, and usually does, is the first people that arrive, someone will find, we have some very distinct markers that get put out where it basically designates the start, where we fly from and where we land from. And if no one else does, Robin's usually very good at this. He'll find them and he'll stick them out. Will be very clear markers. But these basically help identify where we're launching, where we're landing. Now, one of the key things to understand is that Beachy Head is very much like Devil's Dyke in that it is a massive, massive tourist attraction. And where we take off from is right in the middle of where people are walking. I always go with this inductions, and I cannot stress this enough for tomorrow, is directly beneath where we're launching is a footpath. This isn't particularly covered in the site guide, which is why I want to go over it. There will be a lot of people on that footpath. So when you're launching, you have to really watch out for people in front of you. Really understand that their awareness of your flying speed, your flying direction will be zero, completely zero. You know, do not expect them to get out of the way, even if you shout or whatever. You kind of have to make sure you've got a clear space, you do take off, and you avoid the people on the path. Where we land, even though we put signs up, it doesn't stop people from walking along there. We don't own the piece of land. So when you're coming into land, be aware there will be A, a lot of pilots, B, a lot of public. Again, if you're not confident with top landing in that sort of environment, land at the bottom and walk up. You know, just don't even consider it. It's if you think, oh God, I'm going to fly into someone, or I'm going to hit the road, or something else is going to happen, just go to the bottom, land there, pack up, walk back up again. Okay, take off. So I think we should be fine. The wind's going to be pretty much dominantly southeast tomorrow, so the takeoff area will actually should be pretty much into wind all the time. If for some reason it does start moving more southerly, then what happens is because immediately sort of to the west of the takeoff, you get the cliffs forming. As the wind comes round to the south, we end up with, just at launch, often we can get quite a bit of rotor that comes over the top and hits that takeoff area. So you don't have to worry about it tomorrow, but other times when you're flying there, if you see the wind coming around to the south, make sure that you're landing further away from where the cliffs start, because otherwise you'll come into land, everything will be fine, and you'll hit this bit of rotor coming. You'll suddenly find the last 10 to 20 feet of your arrival for landing will just be a vertical descent. You'll just hit this air. You'll just come straight down. So just watch. You know, even though the wind is supposed to be southeasterly, there will be a windsock. Watch the direction of the windsock. Make sure it's lined up for you to land. If you see that windsock veering more southerly, then really take care with your landing approaches. And again, if you're not certain, go to the bottom, land at the bottom, walk up. There'll be plenty of space down there to land in. Okay. There's a slim chance there might be some hang gliders there tomorrow. I don't think there will be, but you never know. One of the things that you'll see in the site guide, we have zero way of policing this, so it probably won't happen, is a bit here which says, let's highlight it. No more than a total of 30 paragliders and hang gliders should be in the air at any one time. Okay. It's one of those rules that's, if it's a good day and we've got the entire cliff run on, then you might have 15 guys in the bowl, you might have 50 guys over the cliffs. The fact that many pilots in the air really makes no difference. If it's a day like tomorrow where potentially getting over the cliffs is going to be very difficult and most people will be in the bowl, then 30 pilots flying in that bowl is pretty nerve-wracking, to be honest. So if you see lots of people in the air, you might want to decide just to land, let it calm down a bit, and then take off again. What I would say is that there's a couple of things. One, because it's not we don't have like 20 kilometers of coastline. It's about, what's the bowl, Rob? About a kilometer?
If that.
Less than a kilometer. It's probably about 800 meters, I think, isn't it? I guess it's probably not much more than about. It's not a huge run. So if you put 15 to 20 pilots in there going up and down it, you're going to be passing people all the time. It's really, 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 really important to have your air law in. Oops, someone's waiting to get in. Make sure that you stick to it. Don't, when you're basically, when you launch and you're flying out, you're taking off. At that point, you're launching with the ridge on your left. So you kind of have to push out and allow for people coming back towards you. So you have this little initial crossover when you take off. Don't force people into the bushes. You know, it's like, if you're supposed to be further out, be further out. If that means you go down, then you go down. You know, treat that flight path with respect. Equally,
it depends a little bit also how buoyant it is and whether everyone's soaring at the same height.
I was about to come to that point, yeah. No, so I was about to say, yeah, hopefully it'll be lifty enough that there'll be separation. If you find you're getting decent height, I mean, even 100, 150 feet above takeoff there is good height. Don't be afraid to push away from the bowl out towards the sea. So you're further out and away from people. You know, so you're not in the mad melee that's going up and down the ridge. And again, if you push out, it doesn't work, you can't get back, land at the bottom, pack up, up again. It's actually quite a nice site for practicing pushing away from the hill. If you get a bit of height, push out. You know, get away from this mania that's going on close to the ridge. You know, watch what other pilots are doing. If you see other pilots pushing out and staying up, or push out and have a go. You know, but be, all I can say, be extra alert. There'll be, you know, even with the guy, even if only you guys turned up tomorrow, it's going to be busy, and a lot more will turn up. So be very alert. Really watch what's going on. Allow space for other people. Equally, be prepared for the fact that, you know, you may find some people flying closer to you than you're used to. Don't panic. Keep, you know, don't sort of try and be as predictable as possible in your flying, so that, you know, when you get, follow the pattern other people are doing. Don't sort of like randomly turn back halfway along and throw everything out. And it should work fine. It should, you know, it should actually be okay. If you get right, it probably won't affect you. But if you're doing that bowl, if you get right to the end of the bowl, you can potentially go further. You can go up and over the edge and further. I really wouldn't recommend it when you first start flying, because as you go over the next ridge, you can get some funny airflow. If you're not used to it, you might find it a bit difficult. What you can do when you get to the end of the bowl is actually just, again, follow the line of the bowl out towards the coast, and often it's quite lifty along the very end, last bit. If you see guys going up, you can follow them out, go up, track back, higher up, and sort of do a circuit where you're actually not just scratching the bowl, but you've got a bit more height to it. Okay. I think one of the key things here to look at is, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but the landing area, where it says on the site guide, the opening line is, do not land on the main top landing in a southerly, because the rotor off the cliffs can be severe and dangerous. So as I said, looking at the forecast, it shouldn't be southerly. In fact, if anything, it's going to bear more easterly. So tomorrow should be totally fine. But it's just something to be aware of. But we'll look at this next bit and explain that in a bit more detail. So it says, during your landing approach, do not stray downwind of the path along the road, and make sure you have enough height when you come in parallel to the road. So what does that mean? If I got the map here, I'll use this one. Don't know, it's probably not the best. Okay, so if you look on this map where it says it's got South Downs Way, and as long as like a little sort of phone symbol, that's kind of where the landing area is. So when you downwind, if it's a southeasterly, it can actually track you back over the road itself. So you don't want to be getting, you don't want to be too far back over, you don't want to be back over the road at all when you come into land, because if it, the shape of it is, you've got sort of takeoff here, landing on top, then it rolls, it slopes down to the road. So if you're coming in from behind this, you actually run the risk of someone's catching a little bit of, you can get a little bit of rotor coming off the top of this. And on this approach, if you're behind that slope over the road, you can often hit sinking air, and you'll suddenly find yourself just dropping to the ground. So watch how far back you go, and you kind of want to be lining up over this bit where it says South Downs Way almost, not over the road itself. Okay, so don't track back over the road. If something goes wrong, all you've got is road beneath you, and there's quite a chance that the air will get a bit funky there, and there is a good chance you will hit sort of sinking air rotor, and you will just drop very rapidly. So yeah, so you generally, sorry. Yeah, you generally come down quickly when you turn into wind, risk overshooting rather than being dumped. So this is this point. If you come in too far back by the road, that's where you risk being dumped. It's better to come in while you're getting used to it. Here's the landing, you're coming in, you're not quite right, well, just overfly. Just like I said, overshoot, fly out again, do another circuit, come back around, have another go. That's a much safer option than trying to be too far back and you suddenly, here's where you want to land. Instead of that, you just get dumped here. For those who've never experienced it, being dumped out of the air from anything more than about 3 feet, it's not pleasant. 10 feet being dumped, you kind of into the area of fracturing things. 15 feet being dumped, you're almost certainly into broken bones and stuff. I mean, it's that you don't have to fall from that much height. And it's not a gentle, this isn't like you're going to come down in some sort of nice parachute thing. When you hit this area, being dumped is literally being dumped. You just free fall straight down. It's a very unpleasant experience, and you don't want to experience it, is what I would say. So you run a high risk of that at Beachy if you come in too far behind where the landing is. So what my advice is, watch other people land, watch their landing approach, look for people with a similar wing to yourself and how their approach, and follow it in. And you'll probably find while you're there, while you can get ready to fly, there'll be enough people launching and coming back and landing. Watch their circuit, watch the landing approach, see how they do it, and that'll give you a good idea of where to go. I think before we get into hazards, anyone got any questions so far on that sort of area of just the landings, where we're taking off from and stuff?
Can I raise one point? You may have got it, but something to say later in the talk. That is helicopters. We do sometimes get either Coast Guard or air ambulance helicopters at Beachy Head where there's been an incident. Be aware that this can happen, and if there is a helicopter incoming, get down on the ground and out of the sky as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Hopefully we won't experience it, but yes. And again, if your only option for that to land rapidly is land at the bottom, land at the bottom. I know I keep saying land at the bottom a lot, but it's a very safe option at Beachy. Once you get there and you see it, you go, oh, okay, yeah, landing at the bottom, good option. So this is quite important. All pilots are requested to keep an eye on the top landing area and give polite warning of imminent top landings to people in the vicinity of the landing area. So even if you're on the ground and you see a pilot coming in and you see people in the area, just say, there's a pilot coming in to land, you just stand back a bit. Obviously, if 2 or 3 people already said that, you don't have to be another person saying it, but if no one else is doing anything, do inform people. You know, I always say this in the inductions, is that people will not, weirdly, people do not instinctively get out of the way of a paraglide when it comes into land. They kind of get fixated on this view of this person with their feet straight towards them. And you know, and as I say, nowadays people are far more likely to take out a phone and video you on your entire approach, thinking at some magical moment you'll just divert around them, not understanding that your actual ability to get around this obstacle that stood right in front of them isn't maybe that good. So do take care. And again, if you see the top landing is too busy, if there's lots of people, if you're not confident about landing in the middle of them, don't land at the bottom. Cool. So, sorry, anyone got anything they want to ask about the top landings or the areas there at all? No? Okay, good. One of the things I will say, launching. This isn't particularly covered in the thing. Robin will go through more detail tomorrow. But it is a hill, it is a slope, like any hill slope. With the wind coming in, you will get venturi over the point where we take off from. And you can expect it there. It can be quite strong, but make sure that your reverse launches are very good and that you're actively prepared to run to the wing to kill it as it comes up towards you, and then be prepared to take the, you know, just basically catch it as it comes up. It's not unusual for pilots to get caught out on that and either get slightly lifted and then pushed back. It can sometimes take a little bit of, you know, sort of drive to get yourself to the edge to actually launch. So, and there's not a lot of space there to practice your launches. You're kind of committed once the wing gets up to go. It's not like sort of Devil's Dyke or Bo Peep where you can have lots of areas to mess around with. We really don't have a lot of space there to sort of be fancying around with your wing. It's wing up, go.
On that point, John, somebody asked recently on Telegram about ground handling. There is lots of space for ground handling, but please don't do it in the area where other people are going to be trying to land. It's small and tight enough as it is without wings in the air causing an obstruction.
Yeah. It is tricky there because with people coming in, you know, wherever you kind of go on the top, there's almost someone coming in to land. It's not, I would say it's not an easy area to ground handle in. It's not your ideal ground handling site. But anyway, be prepared for wing up, go, basically. So look at the space, look at what's happening. You know, obviously take your time to look around, but realize you don't have a lot of time there between getting the wing up and launching. Okay. Hazards. Absolutely nobody tomorrow should be thinking of landing on the beach. The tide's in. Even if the tide was out, it's not a good place to beach land. It's usually quite narrow. It's rocky, it's slippy. There are tiny little bits of sandy stuff. It's not an easy walk up from the beach there. You really shouldn't be even contemplating it. You know, again, if you're getting low, you've got the entire lower grass area before it gets to the lower cliffs. You shouldn't be anywhere near those lower cliffs. You know, if you're low, just land. Do not have the idea, okay, I'll now fly to the lower cliffs and saw those. It's just land at the bottom, pack up, walk up. And the tide will be in tomorrow, and I mean, there's basically nowhere. There are no beach landings when the tide's in there. There's just nowhere to land. So I'm just going to look at very quickly tomorrow. Any idea what the sea temperature is like tomorrow, Robin?
15.5 degrees, John.
Okay, so it's probably going to be minimal difference between sea and air temperature. The air will probably be very, very, very slightly cooler.
Air temperature's forecast at 14.
Yeah, so it's negligible. Now, the significance of that is that it means what we're not getting off the sea is okay. It mentions in the site guide this term, the lapse, but when the lapse rate is poor. So the lapse rate is the rate at which the air is basically ascending. If there's almost no temperature difference between the air and the sea, the lapse rate is going to be poor. So it means we don't get close to the sea this like nice buoyant layer of air. It doesn't mean there won't be any lift because we're on a ridge, the wind's coming in, we'll have ridge lift. But it does mean that cliff flying in those conditions is you really don't want to be doing it, because you could find yourself suddenly over the cliff with zero lift and just going down with no bottom landing. Insanely dangerous. As I say, you shouldn't tomorrow even be contemplating flying over the cliffs. Even if you see some guys pushing out over the cliffs, there'll be more experienced pilots. Don't follow them. I mean, really don't follow them. It's with that temperature difference, and tomorrow it's going to be quite a low inversion. I mean, just sort of jump about the weather tomorrow. It's looking like high pressure. There's an inversion. I think the inversion is predicted at about on the coast. I think it's about 700 feet or something. It's quite low. It means the lift over the cliffs is not going to be good. It won't be safe to try and soar them at all. I'll just cover this bit again, just to explain it. I think it's a slightly technical term. Adverse temperature gradient conditions can lead to severe turbulence due to velocity differences between wind above and below a separating inversion layer. Okay, so basically this is to do with very tall cliffs. The wind's coming in. You can get like wind separation occurring on the cliff face itself. So you can actually suddenly find that you go from like a lifty area close to the top of the cliffs, and if you drop 20, 30 feet, you suddenly get air that just sinks. You kind of, if that's your cliff face, you have like a shear layer where partway down, the wind coming in will actually, some wind will go up, some wind will go down. And if you drop below this level, you're not getting back up again. So you can get a lot of turbulence occurring, and where you're only, once you're in it, your only direction is down. There is no going back up. Even if the wind is strong, you're just sinking. So it's basically why we really, I think it used to say it in the guide somewhere, but our advice to people thinking of flying the cliffs at Beachy is, one, I think we recommend at least 25 hours post CP. Two, be used to cliff flying at New Haven first. But as I say, tomorrow, regardless of anybody who might be doing it, just don't consider it, don't think about it, don't do it. And you'll have a much better day. Again, won't really apply to you because you're not on the cliffs, but beware of rotor immediately behind the cliffs and wind gradient behind the bushes. So you won't be flying the cliffs themselves, that's not a problem. You should be ahead and in front of the bushes. Yeah, so I don't think you need to worry too much about it. You shouldn't have to worry about that tomorrow. Okay, rig on top of the raised bank onto the car park. Right. So rig on top of the raised bank opposite the car park. I think this is a slightly confusing instruction because the raised bank opposite the car park is the landing area. So you basically have to take a look at, and it's usually the area which is like got the easiest place to rig up. But be aware of where pilots are coming into land. If no one's coming to land, fine, rig up. If you see people coming into land, keep that top area clear. Rig up to the side of it. If you're not going to launch, do not leave your wings spread out. Rig up, get set up, mushroom your wing, take it to where launch is, then spread it out again, then get ready to launch. We don't really have the space there for like 20 or 30 pilots to all stand there with their wings all spread out, nicely set up, waiting to launch. It just doesn't work. So get something like that, very much like New Haven, get in the practice of get it done, set it up, get your line set up, mushroom your wing, get ready to fly. Okay, there's directions here. I won't go through those. It's easy to find. Okay, cool. So basically then, flying Beachy is, flying the bowl is like pretty much flying any of our other sites, as long as the wind stays on the hill. If it shifts, you have to be aware of the cliffs and turbulence from it. And it's, you'll see as soon as you get in the air that there are no slope, the slope landing options are minimal. The bushes at Beachy are very typical of coastal bushes. The thorns on them are particularly thick and precarious. And I don't know, Robin's probably all said of this, we've all helped get people out of those bushes. We've all come away with hands and arms slightly shredded, I think, haven't we, Robin?
If I remember, I will pack a small saw. It will probably be needed.
Yeah, and thick gloves. So treat those bushes with respect. They have the capability, if your wing goes in it, they can slice through wing material quite nicely. I mentioned it because, coastal bushes grow tough to handle those conditions. And they have really vicious spikes on them, just horrendous for getting wings out of and getting people out.
It'll take several people an hour to get a wing out of the bushes.
Yeah. It's not nice. It's not pleasant. And that's why I say it. Just if you think there's any chance of it at all, push out, go down at the bottom. It can be particularly unnerving as well when you first launch there, because if you don't get immediate lift, your flight path tends to take you very close to the first of these bushes. So you kind of like, if you launch and you think you think you're not going to make it, again, push away from the hill, just push out. If you fly out, you may not stay up, but you'll easily get to the bottom. There's like without any question or two. To be honest, those really are kind of the key points about Beachy. I think you have to, one of the things you have to watch out for, again, tomorrow, I'm just looking at the forecast. It's not too bad in terms of it's not like building and building throughout the day. It kind of peaks around 10 or 11 and then stays constant till about 3 in the afternoon. So it means that if you're in the air and you're coping with it, you're going to continue to cope with it. It's always worth checking with coastal sites if it's predicted to increase pickup, and then checking, check your penetration, check that you can still push forward. It's not, I've seen pilots caught out at Beachy where they've been soaring, they haven't noticed the wind strength increasing. They come into top land, they now find that they cannot, they've gone sort of slightly over the back of the top landing and they cannot come forward to it. That they're actually just basically sort of pinned behind landing. And they've now got, it's like, okay, they've either got to turn and cut and run and find somewhere over a field to land, or they're trying to risk being dumped as they come in. Again, I don't think you'll have that problem tomorrow. I think once you're in the air and you're coping with it, it's not going to get much stronger, but it's the forecast. Things change. So do keep an eye on it. Check what's happening with pilots. Check your own wing. See, are you comfortably soaring? Are you being pushed back a bit? Just sort of what's happening, and just be alert, be aware, and just watch out for that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop the screen sharing. Go back to the main screen. Question for later. Okay, so I'm aware the tide is out and it's a bit too east to be ideal, but is there any scope for flying New Haven tomorrow? Well, okay. I haven't looked at the New Haven forecast. We're talking about Beachy.
Did that say tide was out? I think the tide's in.
It says, I'm aware the tide is out. He's aware the tide is out. And it's a bit too east to be ideal. Is there any scope for flying New Haven tomorrow? I personally, I would say no. You'll be very limited. But as I say, this is mainly about Beachy. I can take a quick look to answer your question. Sorry. Thank you asked. I'll just quickly pull it up. I won't make sense. I'd say no. I'd say with that level of southeast and easterly, I wouldn't bother going to New Haven. But anything, especially with the tide being in. No. All right. So still with Beachy. Beachy flying there. Anyone got any questions at all? Anything you want to ask?
I've got a couple of points to make, John. One, just to point out that up around the top landing, the higher part of that area, there are some hard obstacles, monument and so on. So be aware of where they are, because you don't want to come in and land and hit them. The second point relates to parking. I saw the site guide mentioned the pub car park. There are two car parks. There's one to the east, which is a pay car park. I'm not sure if you need cash. The pub car park is free, but is intended for customers. I've not known anyone to get grief for parking there, but it's always a risk.
I don't think it's that. I think it's like, is it like £4 for the whole day to park in the car park or something? Or
it's been a long time since I think any of us have been there.
No, I don't know either. But anyway, there is, if you can't find else to park, there is a huge car park across the road. It's probably going to cost you a few quid to park there. Don't park so you're blocking other people in. Don't block roads, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, if you can find somewhere free to park, great. Find somewhere free to park. So it predicts it's to be busy tomorrow. And you may have to end up going in the car park and paying. If you do, you do.
I think the fact that the forecast is for sunshine means that there will probably also be quite a lot of tourists about.
It will be a very busy touristy day, without question. A lot of those will arrive in buses, but also a lot of people will arrive in cars. So expect it to be busy, expect there to be a lot of people, expect there to be a lot of pilots. Now, it may be that the flying is actually completely crap tomorrow, with the high pressure, with the wind, with the lapse rate. It may not be that great, but you're only going to find out if you turn up. And given the rubbish weather we've had, it's kind of like, because it's the first possible day. Everybody reads forecasts super optimistically, whereas normally you might look at that and go, "Yes, I'm not turning up for that." Now you go, "Oh, well, yeah, that's quite good. We'll give that one a go." It's the ultimate optimistic forecasting we get at this time of the year, and to be fair, you kind of have to take advantage of it. Yeah, if you are flying, there's lots of people. Maybe you fly for 20, 30 minutes, then okay, just take a break. Let some other people fly, and then get in the air again. There's, to some degree, there's a certain limit, because you are limited to this short up and down. it's a you probably find up at half an hour, so you kind of incline, land, have a short break, take off again. Okay, site brief says that the bowl to the east is bird sanctuary, hence flying not allowed. I do believe the bird sanctuary is still there. The amount of flying we do is limited. Occasionally we kind of fly past it. If we think it's good, and we'll go all the way down, basically to Eastbourne itself and come back again. I don't think it's been an issue recently. We've not had any complaints about doing that. And I say it's the number of pilots to do it is so limited, it doesn't pose a great problem. Unless the lift is very good tomorrow, I don't think you'll be doing it. So we don't soar the other bowl, that's for sure. But with enough height, we will fly over it. I'll answer that question. Okay, everyone's question's been answered. Okay, cool. Right, good.
Can I ask one?
Yeah, please do.
So you described a landing approach coming from the east into the east to west.
Yes.
So land in the other direction, or is that the only option at that site? If the wind goes more around to the east, you're going to be going very fast, aren't you?
Well, if it comes round to the east, then yes, you would. If it stays southeasterly, you're kind of winds. You're basically kind of landing crosswind whichever way you come in. If it does kick around a bit more to the east, then yeah, adjust your approach to come in from the west side over the cliffs and into wind. Obviously, don't set up so far back that you're actually over the cliff. You'll see it as you come in, because you'll be high, you'll have a little bit of height. And if you're approaching from the west side, you'll immediately see that there's this rather large drop that you're coming over or just behind you, which you don't want to get caught out by. So it's a slightly tricky one when it does come around to the east, because you probably find you can, it's almost a constant aspect landing where you're kind of setting up slightly downwind, coming slightly upwind, and so the wind's sort of coming this direction, but you're almost setting up here and then flying around and landing into wind. Just because if the wind has gone easterly, you don't want to be on this end setting up where you risk, if it picks up, being blown back this way where there's nothing but cliff. So it's it's more obvious when you're actually there and you're in the air, and you'll see it and you'll think, oh yeah, okay, I really don't want to be too far to the west here, because I don't have anything but getting onto the cliffs at this point. But yeah, again, be aware of it, watch what happens within direction. And I'll say it again, if it's too tricky to top land, you think, well, I can't negotiate it, push out, go to the bottom, land at the bottom.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah. Okay, how crowded is there any late morning? Yeah, totally. You can always, the big car park that you pay for, there's always space in there. People are coming and going all the time. And you may find that someone's just pulled out of a pub car park as you arrive. So I'd still say it's viable to turn up late morning, Andrew. Cool. Anything else about weather conditions? Anything at all you'd like to know? No. Okay. Cool.
Can I ask one? Can you hear?
Yeah,
me?
absolutely. Yeah, please do.
Where would be a good place to find out the information on the lapse rate for tomorrow? I know this is more of a general weather inquiry, but I'm intrigued that the lack of temperature difference between the sea and the land is going to create stable conditions, and I'd like to sort of find out how would we go about finding out more buoyant conditions for Beachy Head.
Okay, so the go-to place I would go to for lapse rates and a bit more understanding is probably RASP, and I would look at the So what? Give me 2 seconds. I don't. There's another talk I do which explains what I would do on that. Basically, I would use RAST. RAST uses skew graphs or tepigrams, and it shows you what's happening from the ground level up. It will show you where the inversions are, and what you will see tomorrow, just inland. They really do skew on the coast, but I think there's one for Seaford East, which is really just inland from the coast, not that far from it. And it's quite a low inversion, which it's a high pressure day, so you can expect inversions anyway. It's close to the coast, so the inversions will often be lower. So if it's a 600 or 700 foot inversion, and the cliffs at Beachy are probably about 600 feet, I think, or not 600 feet, is that? Yeah. So it can be, the inversion can be literally just above the cliffs. So we're flying, getting more than 100 feet of takeoff can be really tricky. And now, so with a poor lapse rate, there's nothing for you to lift to sort of push that inversion up. If it's like a nice crisp winter's day where the air is like 0 and the sea is 14, 15 degrees, and you've got this like, 14-degree temperature difference between the sea and the air above it, you can get good lift there. I mean, you can get really nice flying. So so bear in mind with high pressure days, high pressure means that you also need sort of a bit more wind for the same amount of lift as a low pressure day, because you're in descending air. So it's but yeah, I have a look at the talks on RAS. Have a look at the data on there, and that'll introduce you to that. And separate to this, if there's enough interest, I can take one of those talks. We can answer questions on it. We can go through it. But it's the truth is, despite the experience of the pilots, we don't have it down as an exact science, and people will bandy around, oh, that's right, and a lot of the time we have to turn up and see. But
sorry, John, the other thing you can do, Tim, just use Google and put in sea temperature for Eastbourne or New Haven. Bear in mind that the sea both warms more slowly and cools more slowly than the land. 15.5 is a high sea temperature for this time of year.
It's a good question to ask, and it's lapse rates are key to what we do in terms of flying, staying up, soaring, and everything else.
And that's the main reason why we don't tend to fly Beachy Head during the summer.
Yeah.
Because the although the sea temperature is warmer, the air temperature is a lot warmer.
Yeah. So it generates descending air over the water, which of course is disastrous.
Okay.
All right. But I say it's not like, oh, that's always the case. There are variations to it. But it's a good question to ask. Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions about Beachy? Flying it, soaring it, launching it? Okay, cool. Let's say the idea of doing these talks is to try and build up a bit of a portfolio from different sites. It's to answer your questions. When you get to Beachy tomorrow, I'll just repeat this again. Get a site. If you've not been there, definitely get a site briefing. If you have been there before, take a good 10 minutes or so and do your own site assessment. Have a walk around. Look at where the cliffs are. Look at where the launch is. Make yourself very familiar with the environment. It's a really key tool. Refer to the site guide, refer to this talk, refer to what Robin says, but then look at it for yourself. Really get into that habit of assess the conditions, look at the weather, look at the wind, look at what's happening. There'll be someone there who will get in the air before you. Brilliant. watch how they're flying. Are they staying up? Are they sinking? Can they easily get a beat there and back again? You know, what's happening with them? And if they're finding it really tricky to stay up, then chances are you'll find it really tricky to stay up. Equally, try and find wings that match yours. You know, so if you're on a low NB, try and find other people in the air on low NBs. How are they flying? Are they staying up? What are the conditions like? Watch how people launch. You know, are they getting dragged at takeoff? Is it a reasonably comfortable launch? Are they really battling to go forward? And it'll just prepare yourself for that. You know, every time you launch, it's different. The conditions are different. So just be prepared for it. If you stuff up your launch, don't panic. There'll be plenty of people to help untangle it, sort the wing out. What I would say is if you're struggling to launch, and you keep messing it up, and it's really not going well, and there's a bunch of people waiting, just step aside briefly, let a few people launch, get someone to give you a hand, set your wing up, get it straight, have another go. You know, don't put yourself under a lot of stress when you're taking off because there's all these people waiting. You know, set up, go, get yourself organized, launch, go. You stuff it, fine. Mushroom up, have another go.
John, there's been some chat about timings for tomorrow. As I said on the Telegram group, my intention is to be there at 9:30. With an hour and a half drive, that's early enough for me, unless anyone's going to volunteer to bring me breakfast in bed at 7. I will put the windsock up about 9:30. If the club windsock and banners are not out, we'll do that. Even if they are out, I'll plan to walk over and show people where those are kept so that you can do it yourselves in future if necessary. Then we'll go over and we'll have a walkabout, look at the launch, point out the landing field hazards and so on, and do an on-site briefing. If you can't arrive then, don't worry, grab me later. I'm quite used to doing 5 briefings in the morning.
Cool. Okay, Andrew's asked, is the landing field good for ground handling? I don't think it is. To be honest, I can't answer that. I've never ground handled down there. I think the wind.
I've never landed down there, but I don't think it is. I think it's sort of just a bit low.
It's a bit low. The wind drops off. I think it's not. The grass is. It's not ideal ground handling. So no, I would say no. But if you land there and you can find you can ground handle, we'll go for it.
If you want to ground handle, go to Devil's Dyke. Go to the big field to the south of the hang gliding paddock, and in pretty much any southerly direction, you'll have acres to ground handle with no obstructions and no people. I think Beachy Head's more one for flying than the ground handling.
Absolutely. No, yeah. If you want to ground handle tomorrow, Devil's Dyke, it's a brilliant, the southerly, sort of southeast, it's brilliant. There's brilliant space there for ground handling. Okay, cool. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll see you guys there tomorrow. Very brief note, Robin cannot make it Sunday. If it is looking good Sunday, I'll post something on the forums tomorrow about High Nova. And if I'm there, I can give you guys a hand at High Nova on Sunday. All right, cool. All right, thank you for attending. Hope you got something from it. If you have other questions, post them on the various chat groups. If you have any comments that you think would help improve this, please post them. As I say, this is just an off-the-cuff pilot thing. I'm more than happy to have criticisms or constructive comments, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Too old to bother about that nonsense. Yeah, let me know. And I can tweak it for the next one. But thank you for attending, and I hope you got something from it. And yeah, let's get you all some airtime tomorrow. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Good night.
See you tomorrow all.
Yeah.
Cheers.